Welcome back. Let's get you some breaking updates coming in. Please challenging the constitutional validity of Places of Worship Act. The government is unlikely to file an affidavit tomorrow as well. Law Ministry sources suggesting that the government is going to wait it out and is not going to file its affidavit tomorrow as well. It was the sixth time that the Supreme Court had sought the centre's view on the contentious issue in the last 2 years. Remember, it was on the 12th of March that the Supreme Court for the first time issued a notice to the centre asking its response on the same. Sources say the government is likely to submit before the Chief Justice of India bench that consultations are still on at the highest level in the government. In the meanwhile, the court can begin hearing the arguments and the centre shall for the time being assist the court in the same. Now, the bench headed by the Chief Justice Chandrachud will tomorrow hear 10 petitions that have challenged the constitutional validity of the Places of Worship Act that ordered status quo of the religious structures as it existed on the August of 15th, 1947. Legal editor Harish Nair on the broadcast with us. Harish, what are the details coming in? Law Ministry sources suggesting that tomorrow as well the government is unlikely to file an affidavit. What are the reasons that are being given?
Yes, in fact, the hearing will take place today. Bench headed by Chief Justice Chandrachud will resume hearing 10 petitions that has challenged the constitutional validity of the Place of Worship Act that has ordered status quo of religious structures as it existed on August 15, 1947. And as you rightly said, according to the Law Ministry sources, Centre will not be filing an affidavit today also, and will tell the court that consultative process is one of the highest level. Court can meanwhile begin hearing arguments, and the court centre will assist till it files an affidavit. So remember, even 2 years after directed by the Supreme Court, centre has not filed, will not be filing an affidavit in the court as per the sources. Already directed 6 times, that is on first time on March 12, 2021, then September 2nd, September 9th, October 12th, November 14th of 2022, and January 9th this year. So sources have said the government is walking a tightrope on the issue and is taking a balancing stand, as on the one hand it does not want to offend the 10 petitioners who are Hindu rights activists and lakhs of Hindu who favor scrapping of the act, and also on the other side the Muslim community, which has already told the court that scrapping of the act will create fear in the minds of Muslim community still recovering from the communal divide caused by Babri demolition and the Ayodhya judgment, and will open floodgates of litigation against countless mosques in the country.
Okay.
So it's a very, as far as the hearing on Place of Worship Act is concerned, Centre, even on the 7th hearing day in this last 2 years, Centre is not expected to file a reply.
Okay, all right. So today, as the Supreme Court takes up the issue, it is unlikely that the centre gives its response on the same. Madhav Das Gopalakrishnan also on the phone line with us. Madhav, the government is likely to tell the court that the consultations are still going on at the highest level, saying that the court can begin the hearing in the arguments, but the centre will only assist for now and give its response after a while.
Well, the centre really has a very difficult task over here, because whichever way they put out their stand, there is always the risk of offending one side, and of course allegations then coming in about what the intentions of the centre are. So it is a very, very difficult tightrope for the centre to walk, and which is why we see quite unusually over the last close to 2 years, as Harish has been telling us, over 6 times notice being issued, and clearly if the possibility of it happening for the 7th time cannot be ruled out in the wake of what has happened in the recent past.
Okay.
So this is a very, very significant a day, certainly as far as Place of Worship Act itself is concerned. And of course, while we have seen many people speak out and question the need for such an act, particularly, of course, within several of those leaders from the right wing, the question about what the government actually does as far as this particular legislation is concerned, and whether it will actually push for any kind of review in the wake of that, is certainly something that at the moment does not seem to be a very likely possibility.
Okay, all right. Stay on with us. So we also have activist Rahul Ishwar with us over the phone line. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rahul Ishwar. It's been about 25 months now since the Supreme Court asked for a response from the centre. As of now, we are told the centre is likely to seek for more time in giving its version in the Places of Worship Act.
It's a very contentious issue. It's a very controversial issue. We can understand government being slow and steady, but government will have to take a position at the end. Majorly, there are 3 positions. One, no, we will not change it. That's a position that consecutive governments have taken since it was enacted by Parliament under PV Narasimha Rao. Let it stay like that. The other position is, let us include Kashi and Mathura in the exception in the particular law. That was a position taken by even spiritual leaders like Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, or even political and legal luminaries like Subramanian Swami. And there is another position of people like Ashwini Upadhyaya ji, who says it should be open to judicial review. Nothing can be left out of judicial review. But there are social and political compulsions. So it's understandable that government is taking a very cautious path, because we all know there are a lot of communal fault lines in our nation. But there is one thing that nobody should forget. There are a lot of temples or religious places that were demolished or destroyed in our history. That's a matter of fact. But as Sadhguru rightly says, we cannot live in history. We have to understand history. We have to understand the sentiments of history, and we have to build a greater tomorrow. So it's a very cautious path. It's a very tricky issue. Supreme Court is rightly worried that if Place of Worship Act is abolished, then there will be it will be opening a Pandora's box, and a lot of litigation will come. But otherwise, you have to also do the constitutionality of it. Can you prevent any person from going to a court over a particular thing? Is also something. And very recently, as far as some months ago, there was a particular case in Tamil Nadu where a Hindu deity was deemed to be Lord Buddha, and court particularly ordered that it is Lord Buddha and not the Tamil deity that was being worshipped. So it's a very tricky issue, but more importantly, we should maintain the harmony, but we should also, there are aspects of historical justice that many people are telling, like Kashi and Mathura. So that's also a legitimate claim. So, everybody is looking on to what Supreme Court is deciding, and that will set the tone and course for the future of this particular debate.
Okay, all right. You expressed the concerns that are there, and the fact that if the Supreme Court decides on the matter, it's not going to be the end of it. It's going to open up several other disputes across the country, and that is the worry, and that's perhaps the reason why the centre is also being cautious on the same. I just want to read out a part of the petition there, because it says that the 1991 law creates an arbitrary and irrational retrospective cutoff date of August 15, 1947, saying that that date should be removed. But that would mean opening up of several other cases across the country, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. And one more thing, I doubt whether Supreme Court will accept or entertain an argument like August 15, 1947 is arbitrary, because that was the day of our independence, and that was a very significant milestone in the history of this oldest civilization in the world itself. We were born as a new nation. But there are some historical justices. For example, people like K.K. Mohammed, who comes from our Muslim community itself, who is a very prominent archaeologist, who always says that Kashi and Mathura, and there are some other legitimate claims, because these are people's sentiments, centuries of emotions attached to it. So it's a tough balancing act that Honorable Supreme Court has to do. And with such eminent judges, we don't know what their legal wisdom would be. But that arbitrary argument, I don't know how far Supreme Court will accept. But justice for the past and anybody's right to go to court, that's also something Honorable Supreme Court cannot deny. So, it is going to be a very catch-22 kind of a situation.
Okay.
So if you do one thing, one fault will come. If you do another thing, another fault will come. How do you balance it? That's the reason why they are trying to go for the time-stalling kind of method.
Okay, all right. Mr. Rahul Ishwar, thank you for joining us.